Welcome to another episode of the What Were They Thinking podcast. I'm your host, Bernard, with our co host, Darnell, this week. And Jeremy seems to be lacking and missing in action. So, once again, I hope Jeremy, well, let me restart this again. Welcome to another episode of What Were They Thinking podcast. I'm your co host, Bernard, with my other co host, Darnell. And I'm not sure where Jeremy is. Jeremy seems to be missing in action this week. So
Yeah, he might be on the ski slopes. Who knows?
who knows? But just want to remind everybody to comment, like, and subscribe before we get into the topics this evening or this afternoon or morning that somebody forgot to silence his cell phone, which would be very helpful. Now, so one of the first things that I wanted to bring up this week is that one of the things we're going to be talking this week is what's been going on in Minnesota, what's been going on with Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell, and apparently the Department of Justice is seeing mass exits of people leaving them, and Amazon has decided to start buying copper from America. So this is interesting. So without further ado, I think we should why don't we start in Minnesota, since that seems to be the biggest show in town.
Oh, yeah.
So, and this is kind of leads into a bunch of other things that we've had going on this week. So,
Yep.
all right. So in Minnesota, if you haven't been paying attention to the news, there's been a little thing called ice showing up in town. And it's not that type of ice of the winter. It is immigration, customs, and enforcement. We got to be specified that because, it's wintertime in Minnesota. But I would say the following. Okay. We got some major issues happening in Minnesota right now. Governor's tossing around 10th Amendment issues, National Guards being called up to protect the citizens from ICE under the control of the National Guard.
Yep.
We got all sorts of loony boony things going on in Minnesota. So, with that being said, this kind of all started, I guess, maybe a week and a half ago with the shooting of innocent United States citizen by ICE when she was just trying to leave, engaging in First Amendment protected activities.
People are saying, she tried to hit the ICE agent. So before he shot, she hit him. But there was a picture that came out, I'll say maybe 3 days ago,
Yep.
that highlighted the ICE agent and where he was in reference to the car from the first shot to the next two. The first shot, you can clearly see his legs are to the right of the vehicle on the first shot. So that means he wasn't in front of the vehicle.
Yep.
And I ask the question when people bring it up. I say, okay, well, I'll give you the first shot. But what about the next two that were right into the driver's side window?
Yeah.
And that gets me crickets every time.
I would say almost the following is that why did he shoot? Because he had a cell phone camera. He had to move his cell phone camera from his cell phone from his right hand to his left hand so he could unholster the gun, still holding the cell phone at the same time, and then proceeds to shoot.
Yeah.
If you're that in desperate fear of your life, doesn't it usually take two hands to operate a gun correctly to sight it?
Oh, yeah. No.
So, how in fear of your life are you if you're holding a
Exactly.
cell phone at the same time while trying to fire?
Now, if he was in fear of his life, most people would drop the cell phone and try to get out the way. If I'm afraid a vehicle is going to hit me, I'm not going to stand there and try to record it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the mathematics of this doesn't make any sense in my head, because the vehicle has such greater massive weight compared to human body. And then you trying to shoot somebody that's operating the vehicle, you have the potential of somebody when you do manage to stop them, their legs falling on the accelerator and increasing the speed of the vehicle and having it go out of control. So, and that would cause more damage, chaos, and possibly loss of life.
There is nowhere in police, FBI, any law enforcement book that says shoot a fleeing suspect.
Yeah. I don't think there is if they're fleeing, then there is no direct immediate harm, just yourself. Maybe if it's to the public, if they're taking off at a high rate of speed into high traffic area, I can see possibly. You know what I mean?
But it's still not legal, especially going into a crowded space with a lot of pedestrians, and no, you don't shoot.
Yeah. I would also say that I think some people are on the right or the left is taking advantage of the situation, and I think it's mostly on the right, trying to drag this out to a point of view where what's the word I'm looking for? Where they're not making total and complete sense of the situation. There's obviously a lot more investigation that needs to be done on this issue. Minnesota is trying to investigate the issue, but they're being.
I was going to say the DOJ investigating this is not gonna. No.
So Minnesota has been trying to investigate this, but the Department of Justice and the FBI are not cooperating with the Department of Minnesota's investigation units. So the likelihood of anybody being held responsible is kind of low at this point. Now, there are the statute of limitations, which are longer than the current Trump administration term.
Yep.
Now, expoliation of evidence is one factor I'm concerned about right now, but that can be addressed by other means in the court proceedings when it goes to that point. Now, I want to make a mention here about this is because the driver that was shot and killed, unfortunately, I think, right?
Yep.
Had a wife, and DOJ was ordered to investigate and prosecute the wife. So, which led to our next topic. Finally, DOJ prosecutors are finally quitting.
Yep.
And not only line prosecutors, but the senior ones, because they're like, no way, no how. And this is ones in the Department of Main Justice in the Civil Rights Division. The ones in the local division, which are local prosecutor's office, which is in Minnesota, are quitting. I think that, if I recall correctly, the head of the Minnesota's federal DOJ office quit over this which leads to a kind of a unique problem for the Department of Justice. They have all the resources in the world, but no prosecutors and no lawyers at that point.
It's a mass exodus.
So, some people are like, they should stay around and fight and try to keep the wheels from going completely off. But, my feeling is that if there ain't anybody there to file the paperwork, nothing's going to get done.
Exactly.
So, and if there's nobody around to destroy the evidence, then there's nobody around to protect the evidence. So it just kind of sits there on a desk.
Yep.
So
I don't
I-
see any justice being done in this until not only when he gets out of office, but when we rebuild the DOJ and all the law enforcement agencies involved in this.
I see a lot of rebuilding. It's going to take about 10 years to do this, but I see states sinking their teeth into this and being the backstop of what the DOJ will not be able to do for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And you're going to see states come out of the woodwork. Okay, so I guess the local elections of district attorneys in New York just got really important,
Yep.
especially in the district of Manhattan.
Yep.
I also see that California is probably going to have some nice jurisdictional oversight. State of Washington, because of all the tech companies that are up there. I also see the New England states, the Northeast, basically being like, okay, we're in the driver's seat now. And so, and the reason why I kind of bring this up is that companies like regulation, but they don't like regulation, but they really love regulation because it provides a framework of how they can do their business. They don't like state by state regulation.
No.
So they'd rather have it done by the federal government, but with the federal government seceding their role on this front, I don't see how the how this is going to turn out. Because each state is now beginning to engage in their own tech policies and privacy policies, and it's driving these companies crazy.
Yeah, because they have to figure out the policies in all the states instead of
Right.
just one federal policy.
And for example, in Connecticut, they're getting ready to take on biometric data in the legislature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so because some people are like, oh, wait a second. Grocery stores are scanning our faces as we enter and taking our information. I'm like, and they're going like, maybe we need to examine that law.
Oh yeah.
Thereof. So I think that's kind of circling back to what you're saying about the Minnesota issue. All these cameras exist out there now. And, and quite clearly, the federal government in particular, doesn't want to do anything about this stuff, which then leads to the individual states doing things, which has led to now in Minnesota. I think you can have a little bit more insight on this since you're former military. Governor Walz has called up the National Guard to deal with ICE.
That now I have issues with Walz, but this isn't one of them. I am all for this. This is what the National Guard is for, to protect your state citizens.
Yep. From the tyranny of the federal government. That's exactly what the Second Amendment was designed for.
Yep.
It wasn't designed for individual gun rights. It was designed for the states to have their own state militias still under their control in order to combat when the federal government engaged in overreach. And now Trump is like, okay, we're going to try to engage the Insurrection Act. And everybody's like, about Minnesota. I'm like, so let me get this straight. Literally, the National Guard troops now are going to have to choose which commander orders to follow. This is going to get interesting.
It's very interesting, but I don't see them going through with the Insurrection Act because I mean, he has no legs to stand on. Boss is doing this to protect his citizens.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't see how, um, and I guess, you know, they're gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen here. This is kind of actually a little bit on the scarier side of things, because individuals are now gonna have to make decisions,
Oh yeah,
and it's gonna come down to what the commanders of these troops that are gonna have to make decisions. Okay, which one's the illegal order? Which one's the legal order?
yep,
And I think this goes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago with the double shot technique of those boats. Now it's really beginning to come home. You know, it's one thing when it's in international water. It's another thing when it's on U.S. soil.
yep, and it's gonna get bad. It's really gonna get bad, and
Now, yep.
because how can he justify the Insurrection Act against pretty much his own troops that he commands?
Yeah, it
So,
makes no sense.
but yeah, I've been looking that up. Haven't found much. I've been calling my inside people, and they're saying the same thing. There is no legal basis. There is no precedent, and they don't even they said this would get thrown out of court so fast.
I guess the better question is, what are the JAG lawyers going to tell the commanders?
Yeah, and I okay, I need to tread softly here.
Yeah. So, in the way is that meaning is basically Darnell wants to say something, but he can't say it because it would disclose all his sources and would probably get him in court-martialed.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. On this topic is that I think Darnell is insinuating that there's going to be a massive internal fight in the uniform in the JAG offices in the near short term, and somebody's going to be saying something from them at some point in the very near future,
Yes.
and it ain't going to be fun.
Nope.
And there's going to be people being fired from the Pentagon.
Oh yeah.
And quitting in mass.
Yep.
Okay, so that explains what the military's been up to.
It's gonna get interesting, very interesting,
And very quickly.
Yeah, and not in a good way.
Okay, so that we'll chalk that one off to possibly being a really bad. Keep watching here at Minnesota, and I do have to mention Minnesota is a border state with Canada. I wonder what Canada's going to think when things go off in there.
Well, I want to.
Does Canada have? I wonder if Canada has ships in the Great Lakes. and not the like maritime trade ships. I'm thinking like naval vessels. For the Canadian Navy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think. And wait a second. They won it at this point. They got a nice big ice bridge. It's January. Lake Superior is probably frozen over.
Yep.
They can just drive the tanks across the lake.
Exactly. It's.
I'm being dead serious about that. They don't even need to figure out amphibious operations at this point. They just have to literally just drive across the lake. For some people that don't realize, the Great Lakes do freeze over in the wintertime. And it is that time of year. We're in the middle of January, and they are completely frozen over.
Yep.
So, yeah. And the Canadians are the ones that came up with Pykrete for a naval vessel at one point. They're crazy up there.
Yeah.
Okay, build a ship out of Pykrete, which was ice and sawdust as the main material.
Yep.
And they don't care. So, we joke about this, but the Canadians are not happy.
You know, I want to bring up a topic that we didn't have discussed, and it is Greenland, because it ties in with Canada.
Greenland and the Danish and how the United States, or more particularly Donald Trump, wants Greenland for the United States.
And he said that military intervention isn't off the table.
Yeah,
now,
it makes no sense.
Again, I asked a question on Facebook of how many wars has the U.S. won by ourselves?
One.
And it was kind of prophetic that I asked that question. Then a couple days later, world leaders are coming out and saying if the U.S. tries to take Greenland, they lose all their bases throughout the world.
Yeah. The United States cannot function with its overseas, cannot function militarily without its overseas bases.
Exactly.
So,
then if they try military intervention to get Greenland, NATO is going to step up. And once they're fighting against the U.S., it's that saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yep. I honestly think this is more of a, he's just saying this because of domestic troubles at home.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's just,
I don't think he can actually do it. I think there's too many people inside the administration. Even though they're crazy as the Batbird, they're not going to allow him to do this one crazy thing.
See, I understand that, but I'm just trying to get through to the people. I'm trying, you know what? I'm going to just call them the MAGA people that are loving this. Oh, yeah, let's go take Greenland. You don't know the ramifications of what would happen.
Yep.
Europe, China, and all of them will call in their debts on the U.S., collapse our dollar, and what can we do about it?
Not much. And there's a lot of things that are going on in the United States, and that's another issue that needs to be addressed. I think there sounds like there's a phone ringing, Darnell.
Yeah, it's my wife's phone. I don't know where she's at.
Oh, okay. So we'll blame the wife. Okay. So what we're going to say here is, I think that the United States economy is in a tenuous position to begin with, and then if the United States does something stupid, we're done.
Yep.
Like this. I don't think they're going to do it, but I think it comes down to the Epstein files and how far they come along.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like I said, that's what I think is happening. They're trying to distract against the Epstein files. Yep. So we stop talking about that. So if they have more time to redact people's names out of the Epstein files.
Yeah, I'm thinking of one big name that's being edited out. But this is interesting. They're talking about now. There was a filing up in New York with a judge. I think it's Ellerstein or something, where the two Congress people are like, "Yeah, we need a special master here because they're not doing it." And he said they released the files, but we can't trust the DOJ at this point. And as part of this grand jury trust testimony and evidence that you need to release now because of this act, but they're dragging their feet. Can you, I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So. Who's also been really quiet this last couple of weeks? Pam Bondi.
Oh yeah.
She's on the door. She's on the way out.
Oh.
The backstabbing's begun.
Oh, speaking of backstabbing, this is a good prelude to Jerome Powell.
Oh yes.
Jeannie Pereiro.
Oh yes. What's happening over there? That's another issue. Let's think the economy type of thing.
Yep.
Okay, going to so Jerome Powell is now apparently a subject of a federal grand indictment and jury investigation because he doesn't like Trump.
Yeah, pretty much. He's not doing Trump's like bidding. Him. Yeah, he's not doing Trump's bidding, so Trump doesn't like him.
Now, this had the opposite effect of what they actually wanted to happen.
Yep.
Okay, so we pissed off Jerome Powell, which gave a video statement basically like, "Screw you! I'm going to continue to do what I do best, which is keep the ship sailing correctly. And all you big banks out there, don't worry about it. I'll deal with it." And then that proceeded to go like the big banks went like, "Yeah, we don't like Trump any longer."
Yep.
Which then turned into the Senate Banking Committee going like, "We're not confirming any more nominees for you on the Federal Reserve until you decide to drop this whole nonsense tip." And even Republicans are going along with this one.
Oh yeah.
So, which means, dun dun dun, he might have just pushed the one. He's beginning to go into areas of the federal government where people are kind of like, he's cutting, destroying, and people are going like, no. Now I can actually stand up and say something against you. Yep.
Now, it's funny because once the markets took their dive over finding out about this investigation, the administration is coming out and throwing Jeannie Pereiro, or however you say her name, under the bus, saying, "Oh, we had no idea this was going to happen. We are in the dark just as much as you guys."
Come on. Now, you believe that? I believe that
exactly.
As much as the dollars, as much as the British Empire it still exists.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Nothing happens within this administration without Donald Trump knowing about it at some level.
Exactly.
He's too much of a micromanager. That's the reason why we see the chaos that we have in this administration.
So now they're trying to throw. It's funny that the infighting. Now he's trying to throw Pereiro under the bus because the markets crashed for a little bit, and everybody's up in arms about it. Oh, I didn't know nothing.
Yeah, this is kind of like what I'd like to say here. If he had just kept quiet and kept the economy running how it was running under Joe Biden, he would be doing pretty well.
Yep.
And but guess what? He had the monkey around with it.
Yep.
And guess what? We've seen slower job numbers, slower job growth, higher inflation.
No, we've seen negative job growth.
Oh, we've seen negative job growth. Oh, okay. Yeah. I still seen jobs being added. Oh, yes, there's been more jobs being lost than added at this point. Let's see here. We got AI taking over white collar jobs now.
Yep.
Let's see here. We got a bunch of problems. It's just, I don't know what to say.
It's like this administration is making these problems, then saying we're the only ones that can fix these problems. Yeah, because you're the ones that made them.
Yep. And guess what? I still believe the Democrats may take control of the House of Representatives at this point before the midterms.
Oh,
Wait
yeah.
a second. They functionally have now with 4 Republicans that are basically saying, we're done with this. See you later. And functionally are almost caucusing with the Democrats in name only at this point with discharge petitions on major issues. Since we saw that with the ACA healthcare discharge bill. Now Trump is threatening to veto it, because now it looks like it's going to pass out of the Senate.
Yep.
So functionally, the Republican majority in both the Senate and the House is dead.
Yep.
On major issues, because they can see that these politicians that get reelected every 2 or 6 years is beginning to see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And they're getting phone calls from their state governors and state reps and their state houses and being like, stop it. Fix this. And otherwise, we're not supporting you for re-election. Trump is a dead political animal at this point when it comes to the next election, which comes to the election cycle in 3 years from, because he ain't going to be running. It's going to be term limit. There's going to be you see Marjorie Taylor Greene just left. You see other MAGA people that were diehard MAGAs and are still true to what the original MAGA cause was, which is America first, and they're all like, see you later. So he's effectively divided his base. Okay, so you had a small base to begin with, and now you're dividing your base. So I'm still thinking here, you win elections by the majority.
Yeah.
Unless you do something like Lenin and declare the minority the majority and the majority the minority.
Yep.
Turn out, what was Lenin good for? What was his politics style? I think it starts with a C.
Oh yeah.
Communism.
Yeah.
Communism. And then and this is something I wanted to bring up this week is I know this is kind of going a little bit, not our normal topics here
and how
we structure things. But we have, really, and this is coming down to about experts and distrust. And you had mentioned this earlier in the podcast. People don't trust experts any longer. People don't trust this. People don't do this. And I was having on a side note, interesting conversation earlier this week with somebody, and they said, "Oh, I'm smarter than the experts." I'm like, okay. And I'm like, how so? Like, oh, they don't know anything. I'm like, okay. It turns. I said, so OSHA doesn't. It turned into topic about OSHA, and it's like, well, OSHA regulates all of workplace standards and safeties. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like, state governments don't have to follow it because of the 10th Amendment. And it's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, so a couple months ago, or it might be a year now, there was an employee at the Southbury Training School that was killed on a lawnmower. OSHA never showed up or anything because that was all handled internally by the state. Prior to that, a couple of years prior to that, a subcontractor for a private company fell off the roof and died at Western Connecticut State University. Now, there was a big to-do about who was going to investigate it. Was it going to be OSHA or the state equivalent of OSHA because it was state property?
Yep.
So, and so this almost goes back to what's happening in Minnesota. Who controls the National Guard in this instance? Where does the federal government power begin and where does the state power begin? And especially with ICE and the way they're behaving, and what the Second Amendment was originally designed for In the 10th Amendment, now you've got a situation like you were saying earlier, we're in unknown territory. You
Yep.
know, so I see these two things. Like, why are you talking about OSHA and state of Connecticut and these two minor little things that occurred at places that I've never heard about on a podcast, versus and comparing it to Minnesota and ICE and the National Guard. It's essentially the same topic, but which the same concepts, but at much larger consequences.
Yep.
And I know, and so I just it deeply upsets me when people, they don't realize the difference between policy, law, and social norms, And right now we got a bunch of people that are just like, nope, we don't care about social norms. Nope, we don't care about the law. We don't care about policy. We're going to do whatever hell you want. I'm like, well, that's anarchy. That's not capitalism.
Yeah.
That's not socialism. And it's like, and some people think capitalism, socialism and communism are the same thing. They're not. They are absolutely not. And there's been multiple civil wars fought between them.
Yep.
And it's like, unless you have really take the time to study them and understand the concepts of what their individual belief systems are, you would never actually, from a 10,000 foot view of looking at them, you really can't tell the difference until you get down into the weeds.
Yep.
Am I about right?
Oh yeah.
And the other thing I'd like to tell people, if you're so anti-socialist, let's get rid of the fire department and Department of Transportation.
Exactly.
And it's because that's in public schools, and let's get rid of your Social Security benefits while you're at it, and we'll get rid of your Medicare and Medicaid and any housing assistance that you get. And and we can live in this utopian and we'll just get rid of the Federal Reserve. It doesn't make any sense. There's always got to be some level of socialism within government because we have to live by a social contract as humans. Otherwise, so as I like to put it, all governments are socialists. It's a question of the degree of socialism. And the value of the society and what they want to work as a whole on versus let the individual parts of society make decisions about that. But there's no way you can have a completely no government situation with no social norms or policies. You know what I mean? Because then crime would be illegal, and any type of crime would be legal at that point.
First of all, which I think this is what I think is happening. They're talking about socialism, socialists, all this and that, because they want to go the way of no police, no fire department. They absolutely no socialism anywhere. Only the rich people can have their own armies, own fire department.
Yep.
Known people to work the roads, because the average people can't do that.
Yep. And then it's like they even want to get rid of the post office at some level.
Exactly.
Let me put it out for people. The post office is one of the most important institutions that the federal government does. It is actually written into the Constitution as its own individual line in the powers of Congress. It wasn't left for vague interpretation. They physically wrote the post office into the founding documents of this country.
Yep.
Okay, that's how important the post office is to a country. The founding fathers thought it was necessary to write in the Constitution The post office.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe in the post roads and everything, it's like, let me spell this out for some of these major corporations. What happens when the government doesn't provide a road network to your businesses?
Exactly.
You can't engage in commerce with anybody because you can't get to them. All right. Let's see here. How is the telecommunication network run? Well, you need NASA and the FAA to allow you to manage how you put satellites up into Earth's orbit, so this way you don't crash into somebody else's one.
Yep.
Yeah. This is it's like, so everything that we have in society at some level needs one basic unifying institution at some level to be able to say, hey, this is how we're going to operate and create bodies of standards.
But they
Now,
don't want the average American to have control over that.
yeah, which makes which, okay, I can understand that point of view, but I also can't but it's our tax dollar money's going to it,
Exactly.
you know. And I guess a proof of concept of that this is actually kind of a good thing that we have an overseeing organization to, manage these standards is, I don't know, NATO. What is NATO? Now?
NATO, you know what? No.
No, I'm asking this question a very specific reason. It's a defensive pact, but more importantly, what does it do in that defensive pact for all these militaries?
It gives.
Well, yes. Is there a NATO number for the watch band that you wear?
Hold on one second. Off topic here. I am.
Oh, God.
Yeah. This guy.
Well, I was going to say, NATO provides a standards for everything that they use. So therefore, a watch band on an American soldier is the same exact watch band on a German
Yep.
soldier.
Yep.
Okay, that NATO's is a standards body, essentially.
Yep.
So you can take the same cartridge that's made in Germany or made in the United States and put it into any gun that's made within NATO or purchased by a NATO country
Yep.
and be able to still fire it. Okay.
Yep.
That is what NATO is. It's a standards body. Okay. That's what the governments are. They're standard bodies. You know what I mean? They tell people what standards they need to use, and they provide some level of unification. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now the United States doesn't mandate a national language. Okay, fine. But we do maintain standards about how things are drafted and how they need to be presented, and rules. The United States government dictates that the military must use metric system, right?
Yep.
So, which is slowly trickled down into, every manufacturing industry in the United States now using metric instead of the standard units, which, drives mechanics nuts because sometimes there's still those other cards out there that you still have to have standard unit sockets, inch and a quarter sockets when everything nowadays is 10 millimeters.
Yeah.
Even on American cars, everything's metric now. And the reason why I bring this up is, we got one other thing going on here, which this kind of leads into another thing. With Trump, being such a destabilizing force and everything for corporations, I want to talk about Amazon for a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Amazon is now buying copper that's being mined in the United States. Raw mined copper. Okay.
Yep.
For their data centers that they're building. Okay. Now, Okay, let's see here. The but the problem is that um the problem that we have with Amazon with okay, so let's back up here for a moment. Let me gather my thoughts. So the United States has stopped manufacturing the penny. What is the penny made out of? Copper and zinc.
Copper, yep.
Okay. Amazon is now buying copper from American Copper Mine for the first time in 10 years. Okay.
Yep.
Price of copper's gotten that high where they could do that. Now we're talking about copper is needed for electronics and stuff like that. So now we have a situation being developed in this country where corporations are taking raw material, which is nothing wrong, and making data centers with it. But they're now doing the vertical consolidation thing from taking the raw material out of the ground to the finished product. This is a vertical monopoly situation. It's not like an industry wide monopoly.
Yep.
So, which then can lead to a industry wide monopoly. So, sounds familiar. U.S. Steel, you know what I mean, and U.S. Standard Oil and Rockefellers and Carnegie, and so are we running into another situation where we're going to be heading into another era of robber barons? You know.
Oh, yeah, we are actually.
Okay, so and which means eventually there will be so much people are going to be so pissed that there's going to be a political upheaval, and then those people get overthrown. Da, 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 da. So okay, we've seen this radio before. Okay, here we go.
Yep.
I just think there's a lot of people out in the United States that don't realize that's what's coming, but that's what's coming, folks.
Yep.
I just think that Amazon is smart for this decision, but there's other people out there that don't realize what's going on with this. You know what I mean? So,
yep. Well, it's it's just the only reason why they're doing it is because they have these data centers.
Yep. And these data centers are only going to get better and need to be better.
Yep.
Now, the problem for people in data centers is now all your data is consolidated in these corporations, and it causes all sorts of, this is a tech thing, but, back in the day, we used to have centralized computers, and you would use an operating terminal to get to it, and you would do your process, and it would display it to you.
Yep.
Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of the computer distribution went to individuals. You would have your laptop or desktop, and you would do a lot of the computing locally on your machine and then feed it back out or pull stuff back in, so you weren't using that much data. Now everything's on the cloud and nothing's on the hardware that you're using, and you don't have to have as intensive hardware. Well, there's an inherent security risk with that, because now you can't do anything if you lose your connection to the internet.
Exactly.
Or if something happens to the data center, like boom, now you got another major issue. You know what I mean? Or if an update goes wrong at the data center, now you got a major issue. So you're not distributing your risk. Now it's all centralized again.
Yep.
So it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a different risk profile.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that we just have a lot of things going on in the United States right now that are just, I don't know. We're getting towards the end of the show here, and I'm running out of topics in my head to talk about.
There was one topic I wanted to discuss.
Okay, what is that topic, Darnell?
Hold on. I'm trying to
Okay.
pull it up.
All
So
right. Well, meanwhile, while Darnell's doing that, I'm going to remind everybody, please comment, like, and subscribe, and engage with us. It really does help us and boost our ratings at this time. And we're still trying to make this take off as a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel. And I would deeply appreciate it if you showed us to your friends, families, and we'll say enemies at this time. We'll take them. More views, the merrier.
yeah. Okay.
So, and if you happen to be the president of the United States watching this, make sure you leave a comment and tell us how much we're a piece of trash. Because clearly you didn't see what's in my background.
Oh my goodness, I can't find my story now. It was a funny story about was it a turkey or it was some kind of bird that,
oh dear, the birds.
It flew into someone's windshield outside of a restaurant, and
it was dinner.
Yes.
This sounds like a story from the South.
Yes, the restaurant went and got the bird
and cooked it.
And cooked it.
Okay. Okay. So, which means we're getting to that part of the show where we need to think about what were they thinking the award goes to. What were they thinking
award?
Let's see here. Let's see here. I'm thinking the grand jury, the prosecutor decided to prosecute Powell, or try to prosecute Jerome Powell.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty obvious that wasn't going to go over very well.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. Because
otherwise, like the Minnesota stuff, that's kind of like that's a rolling snowball at this point of some minor decisions. This was just straight up, what could we do to make fun? What could we do to try to delegitimize Jerome Powell? I don't know. Let's investigate him. But see, what possible effects could that have?
That's but yeah. I can't even think of nobody.
It was pretty obvious that the markers would pretty much be like, they liked the guy, they liked the fact he's quiet, kept the place running, even with all and then you try to destabilize him.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And now you have the administration running for the hills, and
the U.S. Senate's coming out with the banking committee coming out with pitchforks and torches at this point over this whole situation. Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations,
DOJ. You win it again. It's like, hey, at least we gave Mike Johnson a week off from winning the award.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he's getting it turned around a little bit. Maybe
there's just more dumb stuff coming out.
Or maybe he just realizes that I need to hide in my bunker.
Yeah.
Try not to win this award each week.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just but yeah, I think that pretty much does it for this week on What Were You Thinking podcast. I'm your host, Bernard, with my co-host Darnell. And until we talk again next week with Jeremy, hopefully he'll have better internet connection to join us. Or maybe we'll do a surprise short podcast this weekend with him. That could also be a possibility.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah,
okay. So, Jeremy, if you're listening to us, you know what your mission and goal is. All right. So, with that being said, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and share us with your friends.
All right.